But I wanted to recognize Dave today and share my appreciation for him. This summer's been chaos between construction and changeover in our maintenance directors. When Jeff left the end of May and Tyler didn't come on until July 1, Dave stepped in, and he was kind of just the man in charge and took over, helping lead things. Just got a lot of things done that I know our staff are appreciative of. A perfect example of his dedication is the Thursday before the 4th of July on Friday, which was his last day of kind of the duty, because Tyler was starting the following Monday. We had rain come in the gym floor, and getting all over, he stayed till how late? Shop vacuuming, making sure our wood floors were protected. But that's just one small example. Another middle school office said, hey, can we get this moved? And it was the huge, if you haven't been to the middle school office, it was their reception desk. The second one moved to the front, and Dave said, I don't know if we can do it, but we're going to try. And so just greatly appreciate Dave. He stepped up. He was very helpful. He's helped Tyler quite a bit coming in. Dave knows this community. He knows our district. He knows our buildings. And that 1 month of me thinking, what are we going to do for a month? And Dave was like, I got it. He did. And we greatly appreciate that. His teamwork and his effort running the custodial department, making sure what they were doing. We had a few construction things going on, but when I called him, he was there and he was just helpful. So those are the people we want on our team. Our theme this year is teamwork. Student success takes teamwork, and Dave's a perfect example of that. He didn't say why me, and he didn't say, are you going to pay me extra? He just said, I'm happy to help the district. So just very thankful for people like that on our team, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Next up is the consent agenda. The motion and second, please.
Motion. I'll second.
You vote. I'll give it to Jim. Motion and second for the consent agenda. All in favor? That's everyone. Next up, discussion items, starting with the MSBA policy.
Yes, I did move the agenda around. This isn't an error. So we did put some discussion items first. So if people do come present and then they want to leave and don't wait to the very end, that gives them that opportunity to do so. But so as I mentioned, last couple months, we've got several policies that are coming through. MSBA 2025A policy update was actually a last spring policy that we just didn't get to. This one isn't tied to any laws that were imperative to go ahead and get approved right away. So we will do a first reading on this one and move on. But most of these are just some policy updates due to some changing in federal guidelines, as well as our U.S. federal guidelines. And there's one on revenue from investments and what we're supposed to do with that. But very small changes here, but this is just the first reading for that.
Next up is our academic focus.
Dr.
Anthony
McLean.
Ozzie.
Yes. Let me switch over here for you.
Okay, you guys should have access to this Excel document, and there's 4 tabs at the bottom. We'll kind of walk through a little bit. This month, we're going to report to you a little bit of our district data as it comes to our EOC and MAP scores. But we also kind of wrap around through that some of the district agenda with MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, which is part of your strategic plan. So this is a slide that I presented, I think, back when I applied for the position, and we use it kind of as a reteach here today. What MTSS is as a philosophical shift. A lot of this already has taken place in great teachers for decades. It's just now more outlined so that we can teach it to make a difference in instruction moving forward. So there's a picture here of what MTSS is not. Ben Stein from the wonderful 1980s movie called Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where if you can remember that scene, he's lecturing to a class on tariffs, and I think maybe 10% of his amazing knowledge was being learned at that student level. So there wasn't really engagement beyond tier 1, which is what everybody's entitled to, and that's grade level content. There was nothing to intervene whenever the kids didn't get his wonderful understanding of the content. So what we want to try to engage and teach our teachers in is how to give education in a layered system, like a wonderful layered cake, and students are entitled to many different layers of support, not just academically, but behaviorally as well. And that's one reason why, as a school district, you've seen over several years, you've overseen and you've approved the funds to build things to support tier 3, intervention rooms across the district, behavior specialists. These are all things that we can do to support students who are struggling with tier 1, need help with tier 2, and then ultimately need tier 3 supports. A big focus of our MAP scores today is going to be talking about The majority of our work should be in tier 1. If we do a really good job with tier 1 instruction, that's what every kid is entitled to learn at grade level, then if we do a really good job at that, we should see more success at tier 2. If we're overloaded with kids who we think need tier 2 support, we probably have a problem with tier 1. In order to fix that, it takes training of administrators on how to supervise that learning environment. It takes training in our teachers to understand that, yes, we love you, we care about you, we trust you as professionals, but we have to make sure that we're doing things with fidelity consistently. Teachers are unique, they shouldn't be robots, but at the same time, we have to be making sure we're teaching the same standards so that we don't create holes for students to fall in, and then they have to go through and exhaust our resources in tier 2 and tier 3. So a good time to evaluate that is looking at end of course and math exams. So the next tab, if you look at it, is some district comparison of data. All right, so this is trying to make it apples to apples because these are the competitors who are producing graduates who will compete with our students for jobs. There's a state average as well. It's important that we use this data, which was given in the spring to students, but we don't get it out until the summer. So it's not data that we use to intervene with students, it's data we use to intervene with how we're giving instruction. And we use that in an intentional plan to beef up wherever we have holes, make adjustments. So I don't say that, hey, let's evaluate a certain grade level teaching staff and let's go have interventions with them. Again, the focus should be on what are we teaching and when are we teaching it, what do we need to tweak with our instructional plans because there might be holes and deficiencies. So there's just a district comparison for you guys. This is the data that I have from these districts. I'd love to have the entire conference. I don't have that, they have to share that with me at that time, but these are the districts that have been willing to share these things with me.
And these percents are the number of students who took that assessment who are proficient in advanced.
Correct.
So of all the students that took it, and I do want to bring up, you want to talk about 8th grade algebra, 8th grade
I do.
math?
Yes, thank you for making that point. There's 4 categories a student can score, and that is basic, below basic, those are the 2 lowest tiers, advanced or proficient. So Algebra 1 encapsulates, there could be high school freshmen that take Algebra 1, 8th graders that take Algebra 1, even sophomores, and in our case, we've had some juniors take Algebra 1 EOC. But it is that course. We do want to look at our 8th graders, and I can pull that data out to see how our 8th graders score advanced or proficient. Previous district I worked at, I changed the way that we identified kids that go into that class, and they had 100% kids who were advanced and proficient at 8th grade. What they will see then is they'll see more successful Algebra 2 scores down the road. We were about 50 to 55%. So we've got to tweak that a little bit while we also update our processes, and you'll see some significant, because you got to get the kids where they're at in order to help them get where they can be a little bit. So that algebra does encapsulate different things. Same thing with Algebra 2. We could have kids as early as sophomores taking the Algebra 2 end of course exam, but you could also have seniors taking it, where everything else is grade level specific. So you guys can see that. Any questions over the data?
With this being like just a 1-year snapshot, is the plan is to obviously look at multiple years, just because like you're talking about, like it's not fair to judge one grade level of teachers because there's also a comparison of cohorts as they go. I mean, that's something that as this grows, you're trying to look at years versus that, or is that not a...
That is a good practice to follow your cohorts to see, because there's sometimes, what grade were these kids in during COVID? What grade did they maybe have a great 4th grade math teacher who went on maternity leave and a substitute had to take place? What we do need to change moving forward is the state is changing this, meaning we'll have 5 categories next year. So we'll have low basic, basic, grade level, advanced and proficient. So we'll have 5 tiers, because what they're finding is kids that score that aren't in this 31%, they were in the latter, we're still on grade level. So that's why they're adding a 5th category. So it's really going to change that data scope for us. Our numbers should go up when you look at percentages of kids who are on grade level, advanced, or proficient. So it does change our tracking long term of those cohorts. What I suggest is, as we look at our MTSS pyramid, how we beef up our tier 1 is we're using this data to look for holes in instruction. And so we can then go beef up our pacing. So if you want to look at the next tab, So here's something that I get from the data. This is just sticking with the Algebra 1. All of these codes you see here, these aren't building codes from the city of Oak Grove. These are algebra standards. So if you scroll down to the bottom, Superintendent Hampton, I just gave one example of a standard that I pulled out. It was our lowest scoring standard. 19% of students got this standard correct. At the very bottom, that is the standard. This code. Interpret parts of an expression such as terms, factors, and coefficients. Over the summer, I broke this down, and I even included a document on strategies to improve that exact standard. So that needs to be handed to my administrators, and then they go work with our teams of teachers on, hey, find that section that you teach, and let's beef this up because our kids aren't scoring well. Here's another thing that I can look at. I'm not using teachers' names because I don't want to use it for evaluating teachers, but we have teacher 1, Jane Doe. These are how her students scored. Teacher 2, John Doe and Sally Sue. One thing that I've noticed is Sally Sue, her kids did not score anything. They did not get that standard correct at all, but this other teacher did. And what's unique is maybe Sally Sue's from the 8th grade teaching Algebra 1, and the other teacher's at 10th grade. What that tells me is there's holes in instruction. It didn't get taught here. Doesn't mean the teacher isn't working their tail off, or the teacher isn't quality, which we have quality teachers. We don't have alignment in our pacing and our planning. So that creates a hole where a student doesn't score, and then the byproduct is that's our lowest tested strand. So let's go look at our pacing guide. Why did we miss it? Oh, we had a fun day. We had a student work day. Oh, it was right before Thanksgiving break, so we just decided to skip that assessment. So we never decided, did the kids know it or master it, so we couldn't intervene. So those days add up, those instructional days versus off days. So the last thing is the pacing guide. So this summer, the board made a commitment to purchase a pretty big math resource. And we're not doing this just with math. We had a lot of teachers over the summer come in and work to do curriculum writing and a lot of contents, both secondarily and elementary. Elementary, because the district has invested in instructional coaches, I think is more consistent in planning like this because they have somebody who's constant, their job is to constantly watch that, and then they support the teachers to make sure they're all on the same path. We haven't always had that at the middle school or high school, so they're just left to their druthers to be experts in the classroom, and it doesn't always work out. It creates holes. So we need to teach our admin to supervise this. This is Mrs. Smith. She did a lot of creation for this pacing guide, and then I actually wrote the pacing guide for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math. Because we didn't have anybody to work this summer, so I wrote it, I presented it to them, and it's aggressive. And so this is one way I can make sure that each color code is a unit that they have to cover in this amount of days, and then the yellow is their assessment. I give this to an administrator who maybe knows nothing of math, but they can walk in like it's an old McDonald's placemat from the 80s, and they can tell, are you guys where you're supposed to be? And if you're not, what's up? What do we gotta do? We gotta get you some help? It happens. Teachers get sick for 3 days. A sub can't keep up with that pacing, so that pacing guide's gonna be off, but we can intervene before you get to Thanksgiving break. This blue unit right here, that's a power unit that highly aligns with state testing. And we got an assessment right before Thanksgiving break. So any day that you just take off in here, it kind of sets us back behind the 8 ball. So seeing this perspective and beginning with the end in mind helps them to understand that every day we show up and we teach and we do our best. Doesn't mean we always have to assess, but we also get where we want to go so that at the end of the year, when we have our end of course exams, now we do more project-based learning. So just having a strategy instead of just hoping we're going to get ready for the math test is going to pay dividends, I think, in our school.
And these are some of the conversations that our content and teams will have, middle school and high school specifically, but on these early out PD days, they'll be working together. And I've had some teachers say, you know, well, I like the autonomy to do what I want to do. How you teach is totally on you. We're giving you the resources and the pacing guide to say we need you to teach in this order so that all of our kids and this grade level and this content area are all getting the same, whether they have teacher A or B. How you teach is still creatively completely up to you. We just want to make sure that all kids are getting the same thing by the time they end that course, depending on the teacher that they have. So it's just adding some structure, some expectations, and some alignment, but still really making sure that our teachers know that they have that autonomy on the how they teach, the creative side, how they're going to do it. because that's the fun part of teaching too, is getting to do it the way that you're good at it, so.
So you mentioned if they were to get off, right? I mean, things happen, teacher's sick, snow days, whatever, and they start slipping behind. What's the checks and balance other than you said the principal coming in and noticing that they're behind? Like, what does that look like? What does that oversight look like?
Hopefully you build that capacity inside that team that they can monitor themselves a little bit. So one thing, these are little adjustments that our admin are making. For example, at the middle school, we have 2 people teaching 6th grade math, 2 people teaching 7th grade math, 2 people teaching 8th grade math. We're just the right size school district where we can have more than one person doing it. So there you've already built a professional learning community. And so that takes time to get them to work. You just can't throw 2 people in a room and expect them to be a team. You gotta train them. So administrators, Chris Sands and myself, we're all divvying up our time to go down there and try to lead those teams. And sometimes there's uncomfortable conversations because they're not used to having that type of supervision. But we have to teach them where, when it comes to this week 4 yellow day, we're given the same exact assessment because we know that assessment aligns to the standards. This blue is where you're allowed a little bit of autonomy to be. I like to teach it this way. I love this way of expressing the expression, so to speak. And then we're not robots in the classroom. And ultimately, every kid walks up to the schoolroom and they just need a teacher that loves them and wants to say hi to them at the very beginning. Otherwise, learning can't take place anyway. So it is that hybrid of sorts because every teacher I know shows up to work and cares about kids or they wouldn't be here. At the same time, the teacher who says, I can't move on to Unit 2 until I know they've mastered this because I care about kids. Well, so do I. You have to keep moving on because I care about kids. So it's really hard to decide, but they're entitled to know all this information because they're going to be tested and scored at the end of the year compared to all the other districts. But what happens is we're going to push. They're entitled to know it. But when they fall short, we come back in with the supports through other classes, through a learning path, through RTI time at the high school, which is stuff Mr. Newman's been trained up on and now they're going to implement. So it doesn't mean you slow down the instruction and teach below grade level. You still teach the grade level, we wrap in supports. That's what MTSS and this pyramid is all about.
Now,
Yes, sir.
do you have a software solution that's helping track this, or is this all manually tracked from the administrators?
Tracked as in what they actually do.
Yeah, like what the progress of each teacher and each class is.
It's gonna have to be manually tracked, but I'm gonna meet weekly with the middle school team. I'll meet at our half-day PD days with our high school teams. But then I've got all the administrators divvied up to look at the other core areas as well. We also just have to kind of have other ways to do it, and that's why you make this simple. And an administrator can walk into any classroom in the district and have an idea where they're supposed to be. If Unit 2, if you scroll to Unit 2, I can see the name of it. Any administrator in the district, any teacher, any peer observer should be able to walk to the very top. Each one of these colors represents a unit. Sorry. Yeah, unit 7, function. So any administrator can walk into the room and they should be talking about functions. But if they're talking about finding the surface area of a cone, then it just, hey, what's up? Why are you off? That ad-libbing, although somebody may think in the short term it's helping a kid, it's actually not. It creates holes. So that's the piece of just that self-discipline of sticking to the workout plan, so to speak. It'll change you. So that's why we start with the pacing guide. It's just a general map so that other people can all share this. So what I do is we just have frequently weekly conversations with your team. Hey, how you doing? Are we on track? We ready to give this test next Wednesday? Teacher may be off because she had to have a sub. She might hustle to get back. Are there things that we can trim out to stay on pace? Because right here, this angles and triangles unit, it's important. But this is not one of the big priority standards for this grade level. Some of the other units are major priorities, so we don't skip those. If we've got to trim this down to 9 days, we can do that. If we have to, snow days, jack with things, right? Maybe you show up and there's no heat someday, it just happens, okay? So that we have to pick and choose strategically what we're gonna adjust, so to speak.
Can you talk a little bit about what that support looks like? So when you move forward and say in a 25-kid classroom, 5 kids aren't keeping up, so what does that top of that pyramid look like?
Let me say, the elementary, I think they've been doing this stuff for years. And so we have small group instruction, whole group instruction. There's time where kids can do independent practice and the teacher brings them back to a little short table and they're re-teaching some of the essential skills and they identify them in groups. We also never support kids with a tier 2 or tier 3 intervention that's pulled out during tier 1 instruction. It's all going to be done during some of the other classes because this is an essential standard even towards reading. This is why the state of Missouri and many other states are going and creating laws that say you can't teach this reading program, you have to teach the science of reading, because kids are getting pulled out and taught at grade level for years and they always stay below grade level. So at the high school and secondary level, you have to be a little more strategic because kids are taking courses. So what the middle school has done is we have ELA class and then they have an academic strategies class. And based on the data, students that are really struggling with below grade level skills, they're kind of getting 2 reading classes. It's the one that's a support as an elective. So the other one teaches at grade level, the other one kind of comes in and rebuilds those skills in addition to our Learning Path, which is the program we bought with iReady, which captures all the kids who have holes and kind of backfills all their learning loss as well. At the high school level, it gets even more challenging because kids are taking a course specifically towards credits, but they have a Panther Pride time. Mr. Newman, Mr. Salmon, Tony Leone, and some of those folks have been focusing on their intervention for that time is to, during that Panther Pride time, kids are going to go get supports in the areas they have deficiencies on. What we have to change is it used to be, hey, send this kid to this classroom because they don't have their homework done. Versus, our data shows you have a deficiency in this skill set, that's why we need to come to this classroom and work. And that just takes time to train them and to identify it and then good data.
And some of that's been hard, even with parents, as we've identified kids to go into academic strategies classes at the middle school, because they're saying, well, why? But we can pull the data from iReady testing and say, that we just want to give extra support, it's a critical time for this kid. No different than at the elementary, what we've heard of title reading, title math support. We pull a kid, we want to give them extra help. We're just extending that into the middle school and high school, which is different, new. And so we've had a few parents just asking, how did you decide on my kid? And well, we have mapped and EOC scored, but we also have iReady data that is more specific towards them. So the next phase in all of this then is trying to align our grading practices, because sometimes we'll have kids who will have lots of A's, but then in their iReady data it shows that they're deficient on grade level. So trying to align those practices to be more heavily towards assessments, which you hate, but the assessment tells us how much a kid knows, right? But then when we allow homework and reteaching and re-homework and to redo, then that kind of inflates grades sometimes. We also want kids to be successful, so we don't want grades to always be hindering to them, but we've got to find a way to align so that if a student has all A's, they're at grade level on MAP, EOC, and iReady data, right? That would make sense. But sometimes we have the opposite, where we have kids who are below basic or basic in a skill, but then they also have A's, so that is unaligned. So eventually, that's the next phase to get there, not this year, but come in the future.
So we don't have a pacing guide right now for every course. This is a process. Those who work this summer, there's a pacing guide. But we have the template out to our teachers during their plan time, during their half-day PD days. They're going to gradually work on this, and then we're going to have a due date at the end of the year where every course, especially secondary, should have a pacing guide similar to this. Elementary, again, we have our instructional coaches. We have somebody dedicated to working specifically with this to make sure that teaching's aligned. And there's a few courses that we offer that, middle school advanced choir can have a pacing guide like this. It's a little different. So not everybody fits into that same box. This is a strategy. It's not just show up and teach and hope we get where we want to go. And that makes a difference.
One question, this kind of goes towards just kind of looking at how this is done. Like when you look at your quarters, on the very top, there's mapped out like the PD days. As a district, have you guys had any conversations about a different structure of PD versus like a late start versus right now, you look at second quarter, you have your 5 half-day PD days over a 10-week period. So therefore, teachers aren't getting time to collaborate PD and work together as you're learning new content, new things and strategies. A lot of districts, I'm not saying we're looking at a 4-day school day, that's not what we're talking about, but some districts have looked at a late start. Is that something that's even on the radar for Oak Grove, or is this the mindset of the way we do PD is the best way for Oak Grove?
No, all of our PD is completely completely shifting this year to these late starts, and he's got a structure for that.
It's shifting to this late start, but there's constraints of the calendar requirements that we've got to fit.
Oh, yeah.
There's the hours that we've got to fit as well. So it is gonna be the best for us right now, but I know that the CEO, since I've been hired, we've had all kinds of discussions about A, in theory, what can we do, and then B, what in practice can we do? They are asking for more time to collaborate, but that we also have to teach them what collaboration looks like. It doesn't mean just, I was a teacher, just leave me alone, I'm gonna go to my classroom, I've got this figured out. So working in a silo does not produce the data that we need. So when I can look at district comparisons and I know some of the people that are leading those districts, I know what the best practices are, I'm gonna try to replicate that and teach that a new thing. Not to say that we can't maybe find something better, because we do have some people that have earned the trust to go work with that pacing guide or to put in a great syllabus that we know aligns with the teaching. In fact, I've got one department at the high school that I really feel like working this summer with them, the teachers are gonna lead that team, because they have the higher standards even than what I had. I'm like, you need to go, I trust you to run this, I'll check in and verify. But we're just gonna be strategic about what we choose, and right now we're gonna make the most of it, almost half-day PD days. I know elementary school teachers are dying for time to get together their teams of teachers. Middle school has a different structure where they get to collaborate once a week, they have common plan time. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade math teachers are gonna meet once a week at a minimum. It's just harder with high school just because of we want to provide a diverse course offering, and to do that you need to have teachers teaching multiple classes, not just all Algebra 2. So you try to find what's best for us to offer so that we can be competitive for our kids. So it's an ongoing thing we're always looking at.
Last question. So you talked about grades, obviously like the 4.0 student gets all A's and then they have bad iReady scores. Like where does that accountability come in? Because as a student, I was probably that kid, like, if we do iReady, like, what's it really matter if I just blow off the iReady and do C? That's the caveat. So I mean, is there ever a talk about some type of accountability? Does the iReady assessment, because it's not really gradable, but.
And right now it just goes through 8th grade this year, we're testing through.
We're gonna give the diagnostic at the 9th grade, but we don't have the learning path tied to it. So it is, like anything, something that needs to be supervised. Just turning the kids loose and doing the exam, it's not gonna give you quality data unless we really supervise it and we police it and we incentivize it, we talk about it. And so the elementary schools do great jobs. They give out little pieces of candy for the kids that try hard, little rewards.
It helps with the high school.
Remember the teachers like getting the iReady
Yeah,
award?
they do the iReady parties, but even at the middle school,
Do the students
make sure
get
the
it?
kids know that that this is gonna lead to some of the course determinations, right? What classes that they're gonna be able to take, do they need that academic strategies classes at high school? What do they need for Panther Pride time? And so that's a little bit of the incentive, if you don't like that you get put in that class.
Does academic strategy do?
At the middle school, yes.
Yeah.
But, it's restructured.
But the big thing,
I never heard of it.
Mr. Slicking, that we focus on is our tools with iReady measures growth.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing that we need to praise. It's not always outcome.
Well, it's always better
It's
tomorrow.
gonna be, how are you getting better? And we're gonna praise that type of mindset shift. And so some of our kids that were in self-contained classrooms or special ed had some of the biggest growth in the district.
Yeah.
And they're like, I can't learn at grade level, but you grew
Oh, yeah.
more than a year's worth
Well,
of growth.
basic is still growth.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know if you
Lots to
saw that
celebrate.
the Department of Ed gave approval to the state of Missouri for innovation and a waiver looking into this type of assessment, meaning growth. So there's several school districts, it's called SRSN network in the state of Missouri, which we are a part of as a pro school district, but it's some school districts piloting, instead of the one-time sit and get MAP and EOC, it's verifying that we have fidelity in our assessment, our benchmark throughout the year to show that student A, where they started the year, where they ended the year, they made this much growth. And caring more about that students are learning and growing than what grade level are they at specifically at a specific point in the year. And so Missouri has gotten that waiver to, again, continue to collect that data, to submit nationwide to say, we're done with the standardized test. Kids learn differently, kids test it differently, we care more about that growth piece. So that's the piece too we want for our teachers, is to understand, looking at this data regularly, are our students learning, are they growing continuously? So it's good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Next up, new financials, Tyler.
good news, if you look at the district comparison, we beat Odessa.
There you go.
So that's it.
There you go.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not across the board.
Overall.
Not across the board.
Yeah, it's an overall score.
Yeah.
You might have lost first quarter, but they were cheap.
Teachers are taking their tests.
All right, so yeah, new financial software.
Got their own instructions.
So just like we went to, when we switched from Tyler SIS for our student information, we went to Teacheries because Tyler SIS as a company was dissolving. Tyler also owns Sysfin, which is our accounting software, and they will eventually be going, so we wanted to get ahead of the game. And before all school districts are transitioning, we wanted to vet several different opportunities and options to see what we would like to use for our financial software. So our financial team, which is Shelley, Melanie, Carrie, and we really kind of looked at 3 different companies and really liked SUI. We went and visited a school that uses SUI, asked some more questions, did a demo twice with them, and feel very confident that we like the tools in SUI and feel like it meets our district needs the best. Several components that we like even better than Sysfin, which we currently use. So what you're looking at is just the cost comparison. This year, this school district, or this last school year, we spent $18,000 on Sysfin. Switching to SUI will be $17,200, and part of that is just that one-time setup fee. Ongoing after that, the yearly fee for SUI is $14,700. We will have a training, we'll send our finance team, as well as we're also gonna send Emily Reinbold, who's our special ed secretary, because we want her to be knowing some cross-training. We're trying to do some inter-office cross-training between accounts payable, HR, and coding. And so bookkeeping, and so we're sending all 4 of them to training in October, and then we will start that transition into SUI. So just wanted to put that on your radar. SUI, Sysfin, our Sysfin contracts ends the end of September. So we will have a year or two, a month or two that we will do an extended contract with Sysfin to have that during that transition phase, essentially what I'm saying. We will have SUI up and running by then, but we'll need to keep Sysfin for about 3 months of this transition. But all in all, SUI is a little cheaper, and we like the features, some of the features a lot better.
And did the old accounting system we have, are they the ones that are now running Jackson County assessment? I mean, I'm not kidding.
Tyler Technology, yes.
It's different, but yes.
Yeah.
And
They
then-
got out of this to get into that. They're really good at it.
Oh, goodness.
Gonna miss them.
Any questions on the financial software? Next up is construction project update. And staff number 4.
Project update. Tyler, do you have anything you wanna share there? I real quick, I did share with them what Chris sent us. These are gonna be, I'm thinking, weekly updates, what I shared with you on LinkedIn. And as he sends them, I will forward them to the board, but since we had a board meeting tonight, I just figured I'd bring them up. Just shows you some of the pictures and some of the things he's talking about all in all. If you wanna just give a highlight of where we're at?
Yeah, we can, are you gonna, is that the same page, the same document that had,
Yep.
like each small little picture you can clip on and
Yep.
zoom into things? But yeah, so where we're at now, let me move over. You see that over? Okay, some of the things we can see, so this curb offsetting, that's that east drive, so they have moved that out. What they have, it all belongs to that ASI 1, where we can finally go in and move this drive out closer to the trees, where this is gonna be more permanent drive. They have grading to do, they have the rock base that needs to go in to do the structural form of that main drive. Now, what that's done, and I honestly don't have a good answer for it, and I wish I did if I knew I was gonna stand up here and talk about it. But it has closed down the east drive of the high school during this process. And so they are now currently leaving the southwest corner of the construction side of the gym addition. So they're leaving there and they're pulling out and headed north to 12th Street, off to the west side of the high school. I'm looking for a timeline of how much longer we have to deal with this. Fingers crossed, it's not much. And so we've
I mean, it created chaos, so like today we had probably
100%.
30
It was fine yesterday, right? And
Fine.
they knew nothing about it. As soon as our buses rolled in, we
Yeah.
had student traffic, we were like, time out.
And dump
We can't have
trucks
the dump
just
trucks.
going all day long. And we were
Yeah.
like, when are we gonna get this east drive back up? Because
Yep.
it's just creating chaos.
But but it's great news. I mean, they're finally doing, we're finally
We're
moving
working.
dirt, we're finally getting the drive in, finally getting it compacted. But then it goes into the pad, so the gym pad, that main addition pad, they're cut down, so we're as deep as we need to be. Now they're backfilling and doing the AB3 base that's being packed in. They are moving blocks into the locker room for the walls. The boys, all this is on the boys' side. So the boys, the pad's poured, plumbing's, all the rough grade install is done. It's there, it's passed inspection. They're pour the concrete. The concrete's probably been in place now for 2 weeks. The key timeline for the concrete is 30 days. Once that's in, we're in good shape. They're gonna start building our walls. So then we jump over to the girls' side. They had done the plumbing rough-in. So the grade's ripped out, it's gutted out, obviously. And so all the rough-in you got the new water line, you have all where the shower and the girls' are closed, all that's being reconfigured. The ditches are dug, but the plumbing's not in yet. So I think at this rate, probably in 2 weeks, we'll have concrete slab in the girls' side as well. But yeah, it's all that stuff you see. This is all the boys' side, and this is the girls' side, and that is going to be the infamous sump pump location in that
And
girls'
we
side.
still have water, and they're still trying to figure out the water.
100%, yeah,
in the
still,
girls'.
the water's still infiltrating that southwest side of the girls' locker room. But it's all contained to that one side, and there's kind of a double footing there on that side of it. It's in that 8x8 square where that sump pump's gonna be. Yeah, so these are some of the details about where they can see, just an example. There's that water running down the foundation wall, but directly around this corner is that little 8x8 slab inside the girls' locker room floor is where that sump pump's gonna be installed.
And it's gonna be accessible in the future, I assume, sump pump.
100%, yeah.
What's I don't know commercial construction at all, so you said the concrete has to cure for 30 days?
Yeah, it's kind of a before they want to go in and, like if I want to start other trades, if I want to go in and, I need 30 days of my concrete, rule of thumb, for me to go in and scratch it and do epoxy floors. Right, so, but I definitely want to have my epoxy floors done before I come in and set lockers, right? But you still have a step of here, but, before, they can, you can have 10 to 14 days. I think they're okay for them to go in and start building the retaining walls, but there's usually always been like a 30-day dead period once they pour that slab. And
Gotcha. That just seems
on top of
super
it.
long, that.
I know.
Yeah, because you pour
Rather we
concrete
did-
on a sidewalk or a drive and
Yeah.
few days around.
Yeah. Yep. So that's the high school. What else are we missing? We have good news on our gym floor.
Does it have
So-
any type of ETA for locker rooms at all?
We were given October 1st, but that was the last time
That was the last time. In our last OAC, we really didn't discuss that schedule. We were pretty hammered out on the,
when they were still trying to realign everybody back
right.
in place.
Have they identified where the water's coming from, that's saying?
Underground, right?
I don't know, like,
Yeah,
have they
right,
done a
no, but that
boring test,
is,
is what I'm
and I'm
saying?
not trying to be, no, and so, I mean, if we go back, I mean, it's that section, so I'm looking in that girls' locker room, it's that far in, but it is around this corner, so this at some point was an addition with that changed when we did the PAC. And so this staircase, something happened here 15 years ago.
So let's go back to
And it's at this corner where the water's infiltrating underneath the girls' locker room. That's the majority of it. But is it a roof drain? Is it strictly groundwater? That hasn't been answered. They don't know why or how it's coming in.
One time I had this happen, I asked a stupid question, did you do a chlorine test? And they looked at me like I was dumb. So then I went and tested it and I was chlorine positive.
Mhm.
And I said, well, so Mother Nature's producing chlorine now.
Right?
So obviously it was a
Right.
pipe leak.
Right, it's a domestic somehow. They were almost gonna go to that point, but that was when we found that water line that went through from the main coming in and it hit the boys' side and then traveled underneath, went to the girls. But once they repaired that, each time it rained, they had a small pit already dug from excavation of the original plumbing, the demo, and they would pump it out. And it'd be dry for a couple days and we'd finally get some rain and that pit would fill back up. So it's the answer of, it has not been shared with me if they think they know exactly what the source of the water is. Yeah, and then it's just bar joists. There's a lot of this low voltage side that we need to get cleaned up, and all those bar joists, in collaboration with construction and in-house work. Because that is, one thing we're running into used to be a drop ceiling, and with the new design,
It's open.
it's all open. And so,
So
all the
texting
existing-
and labeling.
yeah,
cutting.
we're gonna find all the old Cat 3, the Cat 4, the analog, the speakers, the fire, automated logic, or our HVAC wires, so nobody cared when they had a drop ceiling. Yeah,
Good stuff. Otherwise, we've got, gym floor. You wanna give an update on that?
gym floor, yeah, so we had water infiltration in that south door, which used to go right into the foyer, which would be on the closest side to where the restrooms used to be out there on the foyer side. I don't know, I'm trying to think. There's 2 to 3 separate occasions when you brought it up earlier with Dave, when we were in their shop backing it out. And we would they'd make adjustments, and the wind would blow from the west, and they'd fix it, and the storm came from the south. We just continued to get water infiltrating that side from demo. So where the bar joist used to be, or the threshold's missing down, they had a plywood wall, but you know, the ceiling didn't come all the way across, you know, so it came in. But regardless, about 3 different occasions we had infiltration of water. We have an 8x8 area, maybe not even that, I'm looking probably the size of the table, but 4x8, 6x8, but of that double door entrance, that swelled. And
Load up. Gym floor.
it bowed up, it probably at its worst, it was 6-7 inches up, about 8 foot out from the doors onto the court. It never made it to the baseline, but they jumped on it, a couple dehumidifiers, and they built a tent, and inundated it with dehumidifiers for about 2 weeks and some weights. And it's sucked it out, it's dried enough to where they were able to put on a new, larger threshold to grab that bowing wood and pull it down and bolt it on. So we're worried, you know, tomorrow's Panther, meet the Panthers, right? And so we're in good shape for Friday. And
And then,
Give
want to
me
give
that.
an update on the middle school irrigation field?
yes, so in-house, so we worked with a local company to find a good water line. Found a 2-inch water line in-house, up in the mezzanine in the middle of the building. Brought that through the building, through the exterior restrooms, if you know where those are at on the west side of the building. Added some power for a timer box, shut-offs, and a drain. And so now, tomorrow, we're starting, so the piping inside, we stopped there until we can bring our irrigation lines over, find our common spot for backflow and main sprinkler lines. And so probably a week, we're gonna have really good headway on where that sprinkler system for that field. Then we can go in, do a final grade, prep that soil, get a good seed base on it. Good time, end of August, 1st of September, with irrigation on it, and get some good grass growth.
Yep.
Yep.
And then we'll be bringing to you guys, probably in the next month. We just are getting bids. So with the new parking lot, we've got to redo the throwing area for track and field, so
Yes.
shot put and discus. And so Tyler's been working with a couple companies, and luckily we belong to a few buy boards where they do a lot of the bidding for us too. But working with those, trying to get companies out to look at where we want to move. We want to do a new shot put ring and totally upgrade the discus ring. So we'll be bringing that to share with you. That'll be district dollars. We do use district fund $4 for that, not bond dollars.
It's got enough space there where we can do something that's pretty
Nice.
nice. Yeah, we'll be able to have, incorporate the same area for middle school and high school, discus at the same time.
And our
then-
goal is to be able to have the space so that we can host like a district track meet. That's the goal out of this.
Yeah.
So looking at 3 shot put ring, and then a new discus ring, and which is concrete work and excavation. And we'll be bringing that to the board so that we can get that going this fall, so it's done by spring as well.
Yeah. Last minute, but
Yep.
we did get the fence moved.
Yes.
And open up the parking lot for ECC.
That was nice, yeah.
Yes, we definitely needed it. It just took a while to get it done. Like it's a fence, just
Just
move it.
open the gate. Can
Just move it.
do
We
something?
we got that done now.
What else? Anything else we're missing? ECC lots, middle school, high school, shop put. Yeah,
I think that's about it. Construction-wise.
Thanks, Tyler.
thanks.
We're fully staffed.
We are.
Yeah. I mean,
Fully-
unless
fully
something
staffed.
changed today.
No, nothing changed today. No, fully staffed. And actually, we are starting tomorrow, so that, the final one, so background checks, all the leaves and absences, all that, tomorrow, boom, first day, fully staffed, custodian, every single spot filled.
There you go.
Just more out of curiosity, so what are the kids using for locker rooms right now? What are they-
Creativeness, we're being creative. All the boys are, living out of backpacks.
Right.
Boys are coming into PE and they are changing in the weight room. And girls, I can't remember, classroom, they're going to a classroom somewhere to change. Football boys are keeping their bags in their cars and then for school getting their bags and they're going to the wrestling room to get dressed in there and get ready for wrestling. We did get Connex boxed, Tyler got that for the south field. Emptied out the track shed, filled the Connex box so our visiting teams can have a location to change, and then bringing in some porta potties for soccer and home football. So their bus will drop them off Webb Park, come in at south, and that'll be the temporary outdoor locker room until things move along. So just lots of grace from our coaching staff and our PE teachers, and just kids are kids, they're resilient, so it'll be nice when it's done, so we keep saying, for sure.
Do you want me to make that on
No, I can on what, yeah, well, we've got 2 action items when we get to that, but that we don't have anything to go with, so we'll have to just, we'll just have to go bypass those. So we'll have to have a special meeting. They were hoping they'd have numbers today on the drainage, and just don't. So just follow up from that, Keith and I met with the city and kind of walked through just to try to get an idea of what was going on as far as the entire, their civil and our civil finally talked with their civil. City came back and kind of said, hey, we still want to keep that water quality, but we will, what does it look like if your project doesn't have the 40-hour detention? What does that do to your project cost-wise? So that's what CEDC is working on right now. It is still going to be an increase. It isn't eliminating all of it. Keith and I were kind of hopeful, it just makes sense, it goes all the way, but the water quality piece is still there. For sure, the parking lot project was pretty streamlined. I still don't have exact numbers, but essentially we were looking at a 25% savings off of the additional cost that we were seeing the change order by removing the 40-hour detention. So right now, CEDC is working on 2 different cost plans, both of them with the closed detention, one with the sphere drain and one with linear tubing drain, to see that cost difference. But what Tyler and I got today in an email, one said that still that ditch didn't have enough space for all 8 of those linear pipes, that they were gonna have to excavate and make that ditch a little bit wider. So to me, that's cost too. So hopefully in the next couple of days, we will have a high level cost, and it won't be an exact change order, it'll be a high level cost, so we can make a decision as a school how we wanna move forward with the construction project. But when I know more, you'll know more, and we'll have to schedule an additional meeting to look at that. Anything you wanna add with our meeting and what we found?
No, I mean, it not to point fingers, but it looked like CDC or whoever looked at a 2020 approved site plan and took that as their Bible, as opposed to digging through the actual APWA standards and what those point to, and that's, I spent hours and hours and hours looking and found it. It's in there. The city has been actually pretty easy to work with, and they kind of went through all the things. I mean, they had special meetings. They tried to make sure they got approvals fast to keep the project on time. And so it kind of looks like they probably should have been in there in the first place, and it wasn't, so.
Did you see a specific change from like 15 to 18 code book? Did you see the language change?
I didn't go, so go ahead.
That was, so the code change, that was the one that wasn't related to water detention and
So-
quality, that was,
So from the meeting that we had, right, when CEDC was explaining that, they said, hey, you're moving to a higher standard. We couldn't find that you're actually calling out this APWA 5600 code along with the MPB standard that's in that MARC thing. Well, if you go to the APWA 5600 standard, there's a line in there that calls out that specific MPB or MVP, whatever it is, standard that has to do with the water quality section. So it is all in there. I mean, I actually had the city, I couldn't find it at first, and they sent it to me, and it's in the ordinances. It was supposed begin there.
And it wasn't there in 15?
I have no idea. about
Or they
whether-
just
I have no
skipped
idea
over
about
that
whether it
also.
hasn't been.
You know what my question is?
So when we had our meeting and we found out that December 26th, the city updated new standards to the whatever year standards. Those set of standards were different from this KCAWP standards that they've had forever and ever and ever. And I forget what field those standards were related to, construction, masonry, it wasn't anything to do with water detention, water
I
retention.
don't think the water quality would change.
So nothing, so the standards that they were asking with the water quality were the standards that KCAWP and the cities had adopted that 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
That hadn't changed. What they adopted in December wasn't related to water quality. It was really, I forget now. what it
It
was
very
related to.
much appeared that they looked at these 2020 site plans that were approved, and
And we don't have an
then they
answer.
couldn't, and if you look at the CEDC letter, that one of the things they said is, hey, to own is, we can't find an ordinance that calls out this ABWA 5600, and the reference to that mark provision, but it's there. I had trouble finding it too, I'll give them that, but when I asked the city specifically for it, they showed me the ordinance, you can point to it, you can go to the city website and find it.
When we asked about why the 2020 got approved at that rate, there wasn't a really answer for that.
Yeah,
Whether it was a different
yeah, I don't think
civil,
they remember.
whether they just didn't.
That was
need
my
it.
question, so it was probably there, they just didn't see it.
Just, yeah, whoever was the
So
city's
someone
engineer
made
at the
the
time.
decision that, this was okay then, but it's not okay now, and nothing's changed.
And it may have
That's
been a
what I'm
different,
hearing.
engineer, yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't hold them the same standard in 2020 as they're holding it to now. But they did, the city was, which they don't have to, they could hold us to that standard with this, what like Mindy mentioned, with the reduction of that 40-hour detention rate. So that's gonna give us some reduction, it may not give us all the reduction that we're looking for, so.
That's all we have today. Until we have dollars
Yep.
and a decision on design.
Next up is school financial consultant contract.
Correct. So I mentioned this before, but I was wanting, if the tax levy had passed, this was something that I was really wanting to do, with so much change in finance. I've got, Michael Weissar is a retired school financial officer, lots of experience in school administration. And he had reached out about doing some consulting with us. And so we kind of negotiated a price and what that service would look like. And essentially, we would have him for a whole year, 1 day a week on campus, working with our finance team. But also, we would have him available by phone, email, whenever we need. And he and I have talked quite a bit, even since, because we originally met in April, and I was like, I can't do anything unless tax levy passes from a cost standpoint. But for $25,000, I think the professional development that I will gain, but also I think the restructuring of several things we have as a district. One, obviously, our goal is raising our reserves, and that plan to raise district reserves, how do we get there? What does that look like? Long-term financial plan to maximize that 70 cents. So trying to reiterate to teachers, we had that goal to get to $45,000 teacher base in 3 or 4 years, but that was with 60-cent increase and 70-cent transfer. Now that we just have 70-cent transfer, how far can we stretch that 70 cents? What does that look like? Looking at our financial efficiency across the district, I know Michael, he's retired from Pleasant Hill, and I know he really went through and was really able to help, for them, looking at numbers, looking at positions, looking at things to help prioritize where those dollars are spent. He's fluent in SUI, the new software we're switching over to, so really having him on our finance team for a year as we're making that switch to make sure that we have that ongoing training and knowledge that he can bring to us is really, timing-wise, beautiful. I'm really wanting to look at our salary schedules, but also the competitiveness of our salary schedules, and the efficiency as far equitability of our salary schedules, that long-term sustainment piece. And these 8 things are kind of things he and I have talked about that I really want him to help. I mean, obviously the landscape of state legislation, as well as some of the federal revenue sources that he can help us analyze and work through in this next year, to really help us outline with that 70 cents, what can we do with it to get us the furthest with the amount of resources, but also training our team as we're doing some cross-training in our finance team, central office. And that finance team is myself, Carrie Reinbold, HR, all payroll benefits, Melanie Salmon, who does all of our accounts payable, and then Shelley, our bookkeeper. So working with the 4 of us tightly as we which is financial software, but also just really analyzing as a district and making some goals as a board, where we want to go. Just filling.
Questions? Comments? Is this a 9-month or 12-month, or what's the contract?
It'll be 12 months.
I mean,
It's purchase service, but yeah.
I guess from my perspective, I think it's a great move to bring in somebody with solid financial expertise. My only request would be, you know, if we could get him here at maybe a few meetings throughout the year, just to
Absolutely.
present, like, hey, what are you seeing, what are your recommendations,
Yes.
what are, you know.
Absolutely, yeah, he will plan to be at board meetings, share information, helping us with those budget revisions, as we go forward here too. You know, this year, so passing that 70 cents in August gives us that revenue this year. Budget wise, we've got a few things we need to tweak budget revision wise, and a few things equipment wise with maintenance that we're gonna need to do, but the bulk of that money this year is going, and we gotta meet minimum wage salaries on a couple of areas, not many, by January. The rest of that revenue this year, we'll be able to go help build those reserves, but, so it gives us some time for that planning. This is ample time. Timing is just right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be particularly interested in seeing what that time frame looks like to get us to back to at least 15, and then have a plan towards getting towards 18 to
Yeah.
20%
Absolutely.
reserves.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Entertain a motion to approve the school financial consultant contract as presented.
I'll motion.
Thank you, Joe.
Second.
Thank you, Joe. And a second, all in favor? Is everyone? We need to certify the August 5th election.
Yes. Kind of bring it up here. Go our numbers. Good voter turnout, definitely. Pleased, obviously, we were pleased with the results. So we didn't have Johnson counties this time because Johnson County was under construction. So Jackson County picked up the voting for Johnson County, emailed our Johnson County patrons and had them vote in a Jackson County location. So we only see Lafayette County and Jackson County in our numbers, just since there was not a separate vote count for Johnson County. Trying to find our numbers here. Didn't the first one? Okay. I didn't vote, because you told me. Perfect. You can read. I'll let you read.
So for Jackson County, we had 442 yes votes, 217 no votes, for total votes for Jackson County of 659. Lafayette County, 86 yes votes, 26 no votes, for a total of 112 votes, which gave us a total of 528 yes votes, total of together of Jackson and Lafayette County, and then 243 no votes, total for both counties. And so there were 771 votes total between the two counties.
Entertain a motion to approve and certify the August 5th, 2025 special election results.
Is there something we can learn from this election that we had? I mean, it's such an off day, you know, an August election.
And then have so
And
many-
have that many people show up specifically to vote no. Like, what did we do wrong here?
I think from people that I have talked to, I mean, I don't have that answer. People I had talked to that didn't vote in April thought it would pass and didn't vote. And so this time felt like if they wanted to support schools, they had to show up to vote. I don't know if that's the only difference. I mean, there were other things on the ballot in August or in April, so it doesn't make a lot of sense, but just several people who said, I feel so guilty because I know it was only 50-something votes that it didn't pass by in April, and I didn't go vote because I just assumed it'd pass.
I mean, that explains the yeses, but the people go out of their way to vote
Come
no.
vote no.
I mean, I think that's a little more concerning.
There was a lot of.
There's a lot of misinformation.
misinformation out
Still.
there.
And I
Yeah.
think there's just a lot of mistrust with everything Jackson County's got going on, and just kind of an anti-tax movement. I mean, we probably all saw their Facebook posts touting that this was really a tax increase when it wasn't.
Right.
And I mean, I think I think you've got some people that very adamantly just want to be no. You know, my opinion, for what it's worth, anecdotally, but,
What can we do as a school district or as elected officials to combat that? I mean, is there legal ramifications to get on and say, listen, you're crazy, this is a no tax
Yeah,
increase?
first right. No, it just.
I mean, I'm just asking,
Yeah,
Like,
it's-
we're not
it's just-
fighting fire with fire, I don't think.
Constantly trying to give factual information, constantly trying to go back to the information we provided, and I feel like we did a great job of that, and again, there was just gonna be no people, and we can't do anything about that. Our goal obviously was to make the people who were willing to listen and trust to understand. I don't know, I just, again, we keep doing the ask us anything, and we get a lot of, like, we were wanting to get more meat to that, like, what is it that you think we're trying to hide? For people to understand that as a school district, I mean, the state standards, the federal standards we have to go by, the audits that we go by yearly, the documentation we send to the State Department of Education every single year that gets submitted to the federal level of education, all of those factors, I mean, there's so many layers we have to go in to meet state standard, to meet law, and to keep us transparent. It's all there if you want that information, you just have to want it and trust, and gosh, I don't know, I think it comes back to trust. And I don't know why, I don't know that the school district did anything to lose trust. I think it's some of our.
I actually had some people tell me that they thought our first one should have had specific wording that it was going to increase teacher pay. I mean, they almost wanted it tied or you know, that there was no way to change it. That they felt like they would have supported that, which I found shocking, because, you
Yeah,
know,
because it did say
I thought
it
the
was going to
opposite.
salaries.
Yeah.
The only thing we could have done with that is instead of making a transfer or in the increase or the transfer, we could have put it directly in Fund 2, which
Yeah.
is teacher salaries. We
And,
could have, because we,
and I thought,
because
and
we're over.
that was my thought too, like, well, I'm wondering if
Yeah.
we should have
We
said,
could've.
this is going to be a, you know,
Right. Now-
60% increase
Yeah.
to teacher,
It
to
does,
Fund 2.
which is great, because we transfer $900,000, we don't get enough Fund 2 money
Yeah.
to pay for our teachers, $900,000 a year we have to transfer to pay all of our teachers. Fund 1 lets you do whatever you need to it. You can transfer from Fund 1 to Fund 2 anytime you need to. Fund 1 also pays your non-certified salaries. So when you put it all in Fund 1, it lets you pay certified and non-certified salaries. When you put it just in Fund 2, it's just your certified teachers, which is fine. We could have put it there.
Because it's a huge
And
percentage.
maybe we needed to, I don't know. But I also just think it goes back to, I don't think no matter what the amount of the increase was going to be, that we just live in a society right now, whether you live in Oak Grove or any other community, increases are not passing. For your fires, for your libraries, for your schools, for your cities, increases are not passing at the ballot.
But I see Jamie's question, though. It's interesting that somebody goes to the effort to show up to say no.
Yeah.
Well, the
Yeah.
calls I was getting, why I was concerned, it wasn't the crackpots on Facebook, it was educated individuals.
Who still
Like,
thought it was a
my
tax
bankers.
increase? Yeah,
Like reach in and say, hey, I'm reading this as this is a tax increase. I'm like, oh,
yeah. No, I had the same thing.
I've been told it's not.
I had people that I, thought wouldn't understand, say, well, I mean, is it really fair to say this is a no tax increase? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is fair to say that. We're moving money from one to the other, but it will not change your bill in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it was amazing how many people, but at least they ask, and I think that's part of our problem too.
And
It's not enough people ask. I mean, I appreciate the fact somebody asked.
Yeah.
Too many people assume they were right and didn't even ask.
I had one person through the campaign, March and April, call and talk to me. And I had 2 people this time call and talk to me. That's it.
Yeah.
And all of our conversations, they were educated conversations, and me not trying to convince, just educate, to help people understand that process, but, so.
I think it's anecdotal, I guess, in some ways, but it's interesting to look at, and again, with everything Jackson County has going on, you look at the Lafayette County numbers, it's smaller numbers, but it's an 80% approval on this item. It's only about 60%, roughly, in Jackson County, and I think that a lot of it goes to that, but it's a difficult thing to educate people, and the wording that's required there is difficult. It is confusing, even I have to read it 2 or 3 times and
Me
go,
too.
wait a minute, okay, how do I explain this to someone?
I think that's probably the
Yeah.
number one issue is the wording. The
Yeah.
wording is just, I mean, it even says on there, it's gonna increase the tax levy ceiling.
Yes.
Right.
And that right there, when,
As soon
it
as
doesn't
you see
say
that
it
word.
corresponding that
Yeah.
it's,
And
you know.
the next paragraph says, then we'll deduct the
Yeah.
other, but still.
I think the
Right.
confusing part too was, you know, the debt ratio on, you know,
Mhm.
we're gonna increase our, and that's where the people that,
Mhm.
our numbers people are saying, so basically what you're saying is the increase is really going to happen because you're gonna pay a higher interest rate down the road. I think they're right.
Well, no, the difference
I
is
mean-
our debt service has
I'm
been
just saying, my
so,
bankers are saying that they deal with interest
Yeah.
rates for the.
well, and our debt service has been so high, we have been paying off our debt earlier, which is
Right.
saving interest, right?
Sure.
But we already had it scheduled out, and even transferring that debt, we still were gonna meet our schedule at the interest rate that it was projected to be. You know, we just won't pay it off early, so we will miss out on the savings of some of that interest. Because somebody said, well, you're gonna extend your loan, we're not extending our loan, we still have enough money to pay our loan as it is already interest out. Unless rates go down and we can refinance, right? But, so I don't know, it is, it's a tough concept, and I've talked to several area superintendents, especially in suburban areas, and they were watching this in April and August, because they all know in the next year or two, all schools are having conversations in the next year or two to be doing transfer, increase something, because of the landscape that we're in, but.
Which is the basis of my question, so, when do you think we're gonna have to go back to the public? I mean, on an estimate, to ask for more money, I mean, we had all these discussions on why we needed X amount, and now we got something drastically less.
Right.
So my understanding in all of those discussions
Yeah.
was that, that wasn't gonna be enough money for us
Right,
to.
and that's where we'll work with a financial consultant and see what that 70 cents gets us, and look at that plan, what's that 5-year plan, and if that's not okay with us as a board, then the board will have to decide if we still needed an increase. So much of it, what's hard right now is so much is unsettled. The state's telling us we're gonna get record amount of state money we've ever received.
Mhm.
But all the state superintendents are saying, we'll wait, let's wait till next May and June
Right.
and have this conversation if we really get it. Because they just don't think the state has the revenue to withhold that.
Oh, and
So-
gambling in December.
So we're
Yeah,
holding our
that's
breath
We'll
there,
be fine.
and then also we still don't really know federal. So like federal said, we're making these free tax freezes, right? And our federal dollar freezes for our title programs, and then they said we're gonna release it. We still haven't gotten allocations on what that release is. So they're releasing it, are we getting all of what we're supposed to get federally or not? We don't know. So there's still just so many unknowns, both at a state and a federal level right now, it's really hard to predict out at this point what it is we need. If the state comes through, we'll be in a good spot. What's gonna happen, there's a reform right now for public education there's a committee together to reform, the foundation formula from the state. There's also a committee across the state to look at property tax reform. And so I went to Union Station a week and a half ago to the hearing with some superintendents who spoke, because we're saying, hey, you two committees at the state level have to be working together, because we can't have a property tax reform, because we're an entity that relies heavily, 60% on local funds. But if you're going to do some reform, the foundation formula committee's gotta know, because there's gotta be some state pickup if we're gonna lose some of this local funding. So they're working in silos right now, reforming both of these huge entities that would 100% affect your schools, your fires, your libraries. And so these are conversations that are happening across the state, but there's some big push for some property tax reform, and that's scary to look at too. So there's so many moving pieces and parts. I don't know how to answer that, because we don't know what we need, because we don't know what we're gonna be getting. So, but we'll keep monitoring and keep having those discussions. For sure.
Entertain a motion to approve and certify the August 5th election results.
I'll second.
Jimmy and Terry. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Everyone? Items C and D, we did not get the numbers, so we won't be
Correct.
discussing or voting on those. And then
Another policy.
next up is 2025B, MSBA policy update.
Yes, and this one we did first read last month, so, just a quick highlight. Most of this is just some wording change due to different Senate bills, different legislation that went through last spring. The first policy is just update on copyright compliance and what we do as a district. The second one is, staff health and safety specifically removes, driver requirement, physical driver requirement because Department of Transportation has that already in there. The third one is changes in state requirements for gifted education. The fourth one is a big push for public information and communication plan, but we already have one as a district, so we're ahead of that. And then the fifth one is specifically visitors to your school if you exclude from campus, if you've ever kicked an adult off of campus, but and part of that is not allowing them to be part of public committees or public board meeting. There's a new appeal process to allow them to be at some of that. So that's the highlight of these policy updates, mostly tied to new state statutes.
Any questions or comments?
Do you need a motion to approve that? We're taking action on it. I will make a motion to approve that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. A motion and a second for approval of MSBA 2025B. All in favor? That's everyone. Next meeting date, next regular monthly meeting is September 17th, 7 p.m.
We will most likely have an emergency to do drainage, hopefully sooner than later, but I don't know yet.
Isn't the 17th, isn't that the homecoming pep rally night?
Really good call.
So,
Yeah, that probably won't fly.
Nah, maybe not, is it?
We can't miss roll call, I mean, come on.
I will check that.
We'll just make it part of the
We'll get with
ceremony, make everybody sit through.
Quick word.
Homecoming's early this year,
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
There's the game, 19.
Yeah.
so we don't have very many October games, do we?
Yeah, I'll check on that.
Okay, so as of now, it's the 17th, we may advise, we may need a special meeting to get these numbers back.
19th is homecoming, so 19th is homecoming.
So the pep rally was already that Wednesday.
So do we want to push it back a week?
Wasn't the 23rd our work session?
23rd is a work session.
Could the board meeting same night as work session?
We can make for a long night. Is that for sure the right thing?
I'm in town.
Thought 23rd was a work session.
I think it's Monday the 22nd is work session.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm looking at August. My bad.
Monday the 22nd is.
Could be the 24th,
But we,
that should be fine. So we're tentatively moving to the 24th and then.
unless you want to cream it all in that Monday, the 22nd, do a long night. We won't have much,
Vacation night tonight.
we won't have much in executive.
24th, 22nd.
I've already got the 22nd as possible board meeting.
Yeah, what's that, we got that.
That's
Well,
the
that's a board
training,
training.
that's the work session.
I don't
training.
know.
So if we did work session and the board meeting same night, it'd be one night instead of.
We would,
Show up earlier.
we would rearrange, we would rearrange and start with board meeting
Yes.
and then go into work session. So,
Alright.
you wanna do that? 22nd,
Let's do it.
22nd, marathon night.
6 o'clock, 5 o'clock.
So we'll do exec at 5:30.
Right.
I'm bringing Casey pizza.
We'll have dinner.
Oh my God.
Don't bring cake.
Okay,
I love Casey pizza.
seeing nothing else on the agenda, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'm with Jimmy on that one. Casey, you were better the second day.
Adjournment.
So I have a second.
Some of the grease comes off.
Terry, thank you. Have a motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor? That's everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
You said the 22nd?
22nd, 5:30 to 9.
Whenever.
Hmm?
Actually, yeah.